with writing in my hand, and I sent and then I took a picture and sent it to you.
Yes, I've
Is that
received your
okay?
email. Yes, this is absolutely all right. I've received your email. I've
Okay.
checked it. So inshallah,
Yes.
everything is all right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mansoor, for the feedback on your homework. Thank you very much. So today's session is about nutrition and photosynthesis. We will be watching a small video on photosynthesis from the GCSE pod. I hope everybody can log on to it. Your numbers, which are starting with the WA, that number, and with the password, I believe the password is WAD2020. I'll message everybody. Yes, Basim.
Yes, Mr. Did you read the message that I sent to you?
Yes, I have checked your email as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, take care. Thank you, boys, for writing the email. And let's begin the session. Let me check if the voice is on. No, the voice is on. So let's begin.
Photosynthesis is the process by which plants, algae, and some bacteria produce food. Photosynthesis takes place in chloroplasts inside the cells of the plant. Not all plant cells have chloroplasts, so photosynthesis doesn't happen in all parts of the plant. It occurs mainly in the leaves and the stem, that is, in those parts of the plant that are green. Leaves are adapted to carry out photosynthesis efficiently. Their large surface area means they can absorb maximum amounts of sunlight. Chloroplasts contain a green pigment called chlorophyll, which absorbs light energy.
This energy is needed to break apart the compounds which are the raw materials, or reactants. The reactants for photosynthesis are carbon dioxide and water. Plants get their carbon dioxide from the air. It enters the leaves through tiny pores called stomata on the underside of the leaves.
The carbon dioxide circulates around the leaf and can cross both cell walls and cell membranes by diffusion. Once inside the cells, the carbon dioxide can enter the chloroplasts.
Plants get the water they need from the soil or whatever medium they're growing in. Water is absorbed by the roots and travels up the stem and into the leaves through a hollow pipe-like tissue called xylem.
Inside the chloroplasts, light energy is used to break apart the bonds holding together the atoms in carbon dioxide and water. These atoms can then form new bonds and recombine to form the two products of photosynthesis, oxygen and glucose.
Glucose is the plant's source of food, and this can be used up straight away or stored. Glucose used for respiration reacts with oxygen to form energy plus carbon dioxide and water. Glucose to be stored is converted into other substances such as starch. A small amount of the oxygen formed during photosynthesis is used for respiration. The rest is lost to the air through the stomata.
Photosynthesis is a chemical reaction, so it can be written as a word equation. Carbon dioxide plus water produces glucose plus oxygen. The balanced symbol equation is 6CO2 plus 6H2O goes to C6H12O6 plus 6O2.
Sometimes you may see the word chlorophyll written above the arrow and the word light written below the arrow. This indicates that chlorophyll and light are used during the reaction but are not reactants or products.
As you can see in the symbol equation, both of the reactants contain oxygen atoms. But we know that the oxygen produced during the reaction comes only from the water molecules. How did scientists figure this out?
In the early 1940s, an experiment was carried out in which plants were given water containing atoms of oxygen, which were isotopes. Isotopes are variants of an element that contain a different number of neutrons in their atoms. The oxygen in the air surrounding the plants was found to contain high levels of the same isotope. But when the plants were given carbon dioxide containing this isotope, the oxygen made by the plants did not contain it.
You could argue that photosynthesis is the most important reaction on Earth. It wasn't until plants evolved and started photosynthesizing that animals could evolve. Photosynthesis converts carbon dioxide, which is toxic to animals, into oxygen, a gas vital for respiration. Plants make far more oxygen than they need, so oxygen becomes available for animal life forms.
All right, there was a very important point in this video about isotopes. Who would like to explain what is an isotope? And then there was a great discovery back in 1940 which proved that the oxygen which is being released from the plants is actually coming from the water, it's not coming from the carbon dioxide. So who would like to? Abdurrahman say he's very happy. He says he's able to see everything very clearly, mashallah. So who would like to explain the point about isotopes? Anybody who would like to raise a hand, and then we will go for a Nearpod activity. Anybody who would be able to explain the isotope? No? Okay, H blue seems to be a little bit sleepy this morning, so let me show you from the whiteboard. All right, so we all know that, let me draw a circle. We all know that the atom looks like this. It has a nucleus, and then it has electrons revolving around it, right? So we have, let's say, 2 electrons in the first shell, 1 electron, and the second one is here. And let's say this is the third one. So inside the nucleus, what do we have inside the nucleus? Anybody who would like to tell me what is inside the nucleus? So in this scenario, when we have 3 electrons, we might have, let's say, 3 protons and 3 neutrons. They're going to be inside the nucleus, available over here. So what if we have, yes, Abdurrahman, thank you for highlighting it. And what if we have the same atom? Let's look at this. We have a nucleus over here, and it has, again, 3 electrons, 1 and 2 and 3. So 2 electrons in the first shell, and 1 electron over here. So it looks exactly the same. It has neutrons and protons. They both have 3, but in this scenario, they might have 2, or maybe they have 4. Let's say they have 4. So this makes an isotope of that atom. All right. I think the atom with the 3 electrons is lithium. Anyway, let's say it's the atom X, and it has 3 electrons, 3 protons, and 2 neutrons. If we find another atom with 3 electrons and 3 protons, but has 1 more neutron, so it will become its isotope. So the neutrons are different, that becomes an isotope. So what they did in the experiment in 1940, they took the water with the oxygen with more number of neutrons, and they gave it to the plant, and when the plant gave out the oxygen, that oxygen was an isotope. And they double confirmed with the carbon dioxide. They put the carbon dioxide with an isotope of oxygen, and when the oxygen came out, it wasn't the isotope oxygen. So this confirmed that yes, the, what do you call it? The water, the oxygen which is being released during the photosynthesis comes from the water, not from the what do you call it? Not from the carbon dioxide. Okay, we have a Nearpod activity. Please log into nearpod.com. Let me just open up the website. Oxygenated water. It will help the environment. The water already contains the oxygen, and that oxygen is coming out of the photosynthesis. So the plants are already doing the oxygenation of the air. It's releasing a lot of good amount of air, oxygen in the air. So if we just put up the plants, more plants, that would be a better option. So I'm unable to log on to Nearpod. Just give me a minute. I think I'll have to first try the other side, log in. If you want to help the environment, plant more trees. So please keep in mind about the isotopes. I'll keep the picture in front of you. The Nearpod isn't working at all. I think the website is down. All the other websites are working. There seems to be a trouble with Nearpod. Are you guys able to log into nearpod.com? Okay, we are in. Okay, good. There are Mansoor and Abdulaziz raising a hand. Yes, Mansoor?
Yes, Mister. Should we go to Nearpod?
Yes, open up the nearpod.com, please.
But you didn't send us the link.
It's only nearpod.com, and I'll give you the code for it. Just 1 minute. It's okay. It's okay. Open now. Let me show you the website. Okay. So the code is 2GTBC. Let me send this to you on the chat.
2G.
First, log into nearpod.com. Enter 2GTBC.
Okay, I'm in.
Good. Abdulaziz is raising a hand. Yes, Abdulaziz. So we have one participant. Abdulaziz, you have the mic, or you don't want to. So this is the code 2GTBC. You have to log into the nearpod.com. We've got 3 people. Abdullah is here. Hamza, Anderson, come on, boys. 6 boys are here. Awais is here. Abdulaziz, Basim, Jawad, Mansoor, and Yusuf. Good show, boys. Rest of the 15 boys, please log in. Link, Abdullah, yes. It's nearpod.com, and the code is 2GTBC. You're welcome. So those who are coming in late, let me put it again for you guys. Please log on to the website. Out of 23, we have only 8 people in. The 1/3 of the class, where are these guys? Are you guys sleeping or what? Wake up, everyone. And what do we call it? We have this activity for only 15 minutes. And Ghazi is not responding as well. Hamza Sharif, Omar. We got only 8 people. Remember that those who are not coming on to this activity, they might be marked absent. So this is serious, boys. We're starting in 1 minute. 1 more minute. So anybody who would like to read the question and the options as we go along with the quiz, a little bit of activity. It's a self-assessment about the photosynthesis. We will be discussing about the photosynthesis, that what is a photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. We have to go through this, but this is like a refresher on the activity of the pod. So let's begin. It's been 1 minute. We have 10 boys. Okay, let's start. So we will illustrate how the photosynthesis transforms light into stored chemical energy. I'll give the mic to Abdullah. So would you like to read the next question?
Yeah, sure. Let me just go to the Nearpod.
You haven't logged in yet?
Yeah, all it says is let's see what we learned. That's
Okay,
it.
good. So now we start.
Right.
These
Answer
are
the following questions based on what you know about photosynthesis.
Good. This is the score.
Let's think and reflect.
Is this appearing the same on your screen as well?
Yeah, it just says let's think and reflect. Doesn't show any answers or questions or whatnot.
Okay, hold on. Now, does it show anything on your screen?
Yes. Now it says the first stage of photosynthesis begins in a chloroplast where pigment molecules change. And do I answer? Do I don't answer?
Yes, you start. Everybody, please start answering the quiz. Take your own time. And let's begin. Let's see what you guys have done so far. All right, the first question. The first stage of photosynthesis begins in chloroplast, where the pigment molecules change. Chemical energy into light energy into chemical energy, or into mechanical energy. Mechanical energy is the energy which is being produced by some movement, some kind of a movement from one place to another, and that would be your mechanical energy. So do you see any kind of movement in the plants?
Wait, I'm on mute?
No, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry, I thought I was on mute, so do you want me to answer?
If you want to, you can. You can choose your opinion, or you can read out the question as you like.
Oh, okay. The first stage of photosynthesis begins in the chloroplast where pigmented colors change. Change something, and that would be, I believe, either B or A. That's why I'm kind of conflicted.
Yes, you have to choose between B and A. C. I just gave you the answer for the C. That is not the right option.
Yeah.
So let's go to question number 2. Let's see. Oh, question number 2 didn't appear. Okay, hold on. Next. Do you have question number 2 in front of you?
When electrons absorb this energy, they become excited and are passed through the surrounding molecules and transport chain. These something in my mouth. These electron transport chains provide energy to make which following? Select all that are correct. You want me to answer as well?
So just read the options. I'm just looking at if
All right.
anybody knows.
A, ATP, B, NADPH, C, glucose.
All right, so we're looking at the electrons. Once they become really, really excited, by excited means when they have enough energy, or high amount of energy, they would be sending them down to the transport chain. And then the transport chain would give this energy to the following. So ATP is actually an energy molecule. It has the ability to absorb energy. NADPH is also an energy molecule, and glucose is the food which we have produced. So it contains the energy as well. So once we are breaking down the glucose, we create ATPs. So we will be discussing this as well. So anybody who would like to answer this question based on whatever knowledge that you have. Question number 3 would be, at the end of the photosynthesis, the organism stores chemical energy by making what? By making sugar, or water, or carbon dioxide. How do they store the energy? And the last question is, what can affect the rate of photosynthesis? Is it temperature, intensity of light, or amount of carbon dioxide? So out of these 4 questions, 2 were difficult and 2 were really simple. And if I'm looking at the, so 50-50 percentage is coming in. 50% people answered right and 50% people answered wrong. Okay. So for these 4 questions, you are left with only 2 minutes. Up till now, we have OS has missed question number 2, and the OS has 2 right answers. Okay, Mansoor has 2 right answers. Basim. So most of you guys have got 50% right. Okay, good. So we have 14 students. 14. All right. Two people haven't answered yet anything. So 1 last minute and we are all done. Okay, so let's look at the results. So Wes got first and third question right. Mansoor first and third. Basim the first one. Abdulaziz first and third. Yusuf first and third. Good. So most of you were able to answer first and third. And Abdullah got the third one. And okay, first and third, and first option, third. So, all right. So let's think and reflect. How do you feel you performed on this exit, on this quiz? That would be your exit ticket. How did you guys perform in this quiz? Okay, that was a good detail, Dia. So I'll keep it in mind and I'll write it down for you. The one with the details. Okay, Dia. Okay. So there's nobody with the A option. Because this is all right, Dia, you're welcome. Since we haven't studied the photosynthesis yet in detail, which we will, and there's a video clip on it, I'll show you. So then you would be able to answer all these questions that what is NADPH and ATP, what are excited molecules, electrons, what is the transport energy, and how do they actually capture the energy from the sunlight. So we have to go through this. So this is like an initial stage. So once you have to measure something, then how much you have progressed, you have to see the starting point, and then you have to go to the end point. So this is like our starting point. We are looking at what do we know now. And after we have taken the lesson, then we will see how much do we have learned. So this quiz is taken on an initial basis, and another quiz will be after taking the lesson. And then we will see that, okay, we have learned this and we haven't learned this yet. So this is the point of, initiating a process. So everybody is answered. Okay, we have how many people left behind? Okay, I think everybody answered. Mansoor is left behind. Mansoor and Abdulaziz and Yusuf Idris, Abdulaziz Tunsi, and Abdurrahman. Your answers are still pending. Just choose the option A, B, C, D. And we'll be out of this activity. "42 boys are here, but on the iPad, the AirPod, I have 14, which is kind of a alarming situation. That where are these 8 boys who are not on the AirPod? Okay, Mansoor has done. Okay, good. It's a feedback. Remember, nothing has to be, based on grading right now. Abdulaziz, we are waiting for your answer. Abdurrahman, Yusuf Idris. One last minute. And I'll show you the photosynthesis. Okay, the time is up. So let's see. Abdulrahman hasn't replied yet. Abdulaziz, let's see. Okay, so that would be all. Thank you, boys. So let's see the animation of the
In order for plants
photosynthesis. Now, this would explain you about the photosystem 1, photosystem 2, the light-dependent reactions, the light-independent reaction, and I will explain them as well tomorrow in the class, but try to see the animation. This will give you quite eye-opening session.
to grow, they need inputs of carbon dioxide, water, and energy. The chemical process by which plants use these resources to manufacture glucose, the building blocks of plants, is called photosynthesis. In the process, oxygen gas is produced as a byproduct. The energy for photosynthesis originates in the sun and arrives at the Earth as sunlight. This light has both a wave and a particle nature. The particles, or photons, are the smallest units of light. Photons oscillate along a path, which is measured as wavelengths. The light emitted from the sun contains photons in a wide spectrum of wavelengths, called the electromagnetic spectrum. Photosynthetic organisms use only a small portion of the electromagnetic spectrum, called visible light. Photosynthetic organisms contain pigments that facilitate the capture of wavelengths of light in the visible light range. The color of the pigment comes from the wavelengths of light reflected. Plants appear green because they reflect yellow and green wavelengths of light. Red and blue wavelengths of light are absorbed by these pigments and provide the energy that is used for photosynthesis. Within eukaryotic photosynthetic organisms, also known as photoautotrophs, the chemical reactions of photosynthesis occur within plant cells in specialized structures known as chloroplasts. Photosynthesis consists of two sets of reactions, the light-dependent reactions and the Calvin cycle. Within the chloroplast are small disc-like structures called thylakoids, which are surrounded by a fluid-filled space called the stroma. The reactions that synthesize glucose, the Calvin cycle, occur in the stroma. The light-dependent reactions occur in the thylakoid. It is here that conversion of light energy to chemical energy is initiated. In most photosynthetic organisms, thylakoids contain pairs of photosystems, called Photosystem 1 and Photosystem 2, that work in tandem to produce the energy that will later be used in the stroma to manufacture sugars. The photosystems of the thylakoid consist of a network of accessory pigment molecules and chlorophyll, the molecules that absorb the photons of light. Within the pigment molecules, the absorbed light energy excites electrons to a higher state. Photosystems will channel the excitation energy gathered by the pigment molecules to a reaction center chlorophyll molecule, which will then pass the electrons to a series of proteins located on the thylakoid membrane. Photons of light strike photosystems 1 and 2 simultaneously. We will examine what happens with the photons striking photosystem 2 first. The energized electrons are passed from the reaction center of photosystem 2 to an electron transport chain. The electrons lost by photosystem 2 are replaced by a process called photolysis, which involves the oxidation of a water molecule producing free electrons and oxygen gas. While this oxygen gas is a byproduct of photosynthesis, it is an important input to the cellular respiration pathways. As electrons pass through the electron transport chain, the energy from the electron is used to pump hydrogen ions from the stroma to the thylakoid, creating a concentration gradient. This gradient powers a protein called ATP synthase, which phosphorylates ADP to form ATP. The low-energy electrons leaving photosystem 2 are shuttled to photosystem 1. Within photosystem 1, low-energy electrons are re-energized and are passed through an electron transport chain where they are used to reduce the electron carrier NADP+ to NADPH. When the chloroplast is receiving a steady supply of photons, NADPH and ATP molecules are rapidly being provided to the metabolic pathways in the stroma. Therefore, the ATP and NADPH formed during the light-dependent reactions are used in the stroma to fuel the Calvin cycle reactions. The Calvin cycle consists of a series of reactions that reduce carbon dioxide to produce the carbohydrate glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. The cycle consists of 3 steps: the first of which is carbon fixation. In this step, carbon dioxide is attached to ribulose 1,5-bisphosphate, resulting in a 6-carbon molecule that splits into 2 3-carbon molecules. The second step is a sequence of reactions using electrons from NADPH and some of the ATP to reduce carbon dioxide. In the final step, ribulose 1,5-bisphosphate is regenerated. For every 3 turns of the cycle, 5 molecules of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate are used to reform 3 molecules of ribulose 1,5-bisphosphate. The remaining glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is then used to make glucose, fatty acids, or glycerol. It takes 2 molecules of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate to make 1 molecule of glucose phosphate. Thus, the Calvin cycle has to run 6 times to produce 1 molecule of glucose. These molecules can remove their phosphate and add fructose to form sucrose, the molecule plants use to transport carbohydrates throughout their system. Glucose phosphate is also the starting molecule for the synthesis of starch and cellulose. Plants produce sugars to use as storage molecules and structural components for their own benefit. By utilizing the energy of the sun, along with inputs of water and carbon dioxide, plants act as glucose factories. Photosynthetic organisms are the primary producers of glucose on the planet. They also produce oxygen gas as a byproduct, and thus serve as the foundation of life, providing food and oxygen for the complex food webs on both land and in the oceans.
All right, boys, that would be all for today.